That's the problem. But if I can get some work off on my computer, then I can take it home. There they are, the latecomers.
Very nice.
Good luck finding a seat, guys. You want to see here? You gotta watch out, he bites. Went down there next to Mr. Lamar. That's the door. All right, guys, sit down. There he is. Hi. We should have moved this. Probably should have. We should have went over.
I'd like to reconvene to the open session. We do have a closed session reportable. Tonight in closed session, the board reviewed the mediator's package proposal for the College of Sequoias Community College District and its CSEA. After careful consideration, the board voted unanimously to accept and ratify this proposal. It is my understanding that the CSEA members voted to accept and ratify this proposal on November 1st, 2012. Mr. Carasosa, will you please conduct the necessary steps to implement the proposal? And Mr. Bratch, can you please pass out copies of this proposal to the audience and publish this agreement on our HR website?
I'll do my best to pass these out throughout the rows. It's sort of wrote in. Should pass this down to Tim.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments. Any person may address the board at this time with either an agenda item on the agenda or other items of matter of interest to the public that is a subject matter of jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes allowed per speaker, with a maximum of 15 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. Are there any comments that are on the agenda item? Please state your name.
This is on the agenda. It's for public.
Is it on the agenda item? Yeah. Okay, it's not on the agenda item. Okay, that'll be next. Yeah, that'll be next. So are there anything on, public comments for on the agenda item?
Yes, I believe. First of all, I am addressing you as the President Costa, that I'm going to be leaving. And I just want to share with the audience that there's good news. Community College League has notified us that with the passage of Prop 30, COS will not be facing any revenue cuts. It will be the same as the last revenue amount. Additionally, COS is in line to receive an additional amount of around $2.3 million. Also, the deferment monies will continue to be paid out, and there's a possible discussion of some COLA coming in, and that's being finalized. The second thing I want to address is agenda item 9, and I forwarded this to John and to the superintendent that I will read to the whole board and the audience. The College of the Sequoia Teachers Association is in receipt of board packet wherein you state that the association will be presenting an initial proposal for a successor contract on 13 November 2012. Please be advised that at this time, Costa will not be presenting an initial proposal, as we believe that the unilateral and unlawful action taken by the Board of Trustees to impose a cap on fringe benefits violates the EERA and is contrary to the negotiations provisions contained in Section 26 of the collective bargaining agreement. Any questions?
You said you were going to leave, is that your
Yeah.
resignation, or?
Yes, no. Oh, is that a Christmas wish?
You said it, so.
No. Anyway, if you do have questions, forward them to me, and I will forward those to the attorney for answer for
Yeah,
you.
we plan on taking item number 9.
Okay, good. Good, very good. Thank you.
Any other on the agenda items? All right, not on the agenda items.
Hi, my name is Annie Silva, and I'm a faculty member here at COS. This is my 27th year. And I don't know if any of you saw the front page of the Times Delta today, but there was a wonderful article about bullying, particularly with the gay, lesbian, transgenders, young people in our community. And the principal of Tulare Union High School and one of the students who were on the front page, one of our faculty, was interviewed on the second page, Elisa Crumpler. And I am so glad to see this topic now coming to the open, being opened up and addressed publicly. This group of students is targeted and bullied probably more than any other group of young people, and because of that, they have a higher suicide rate and many more emotional problems than many other young people. But I'd like to publicly thank today, and personally thank 4 of our own faculty here at COS that are dealing with this directly with our students, and that is Alicia Crumpler and Gaylor Swicegood. They have started the Pride Club, which is a group that meets regularly with this group of students to support them. They do lots of fundraisers with them. And also Deborah Hansen and Bob Masterson, along with Alicia and Gaylord, are doing an incredible anti-bullying workshop every semester that is so well attended and so moving. And it's so wonderful to see our own faculty helping COS be at the forefront of this issue and helping to make our students safer on this campus. This group of students sometimes don't even feel safe with their own families, but it's wonderful to know that we have faculty here to make them feel safe at the COS family. And I'd like to have everybody join me tonight in thanking these 4 faculty, these staff members, in making this a safer place for these particular students, but for all the students here at COS.
Are there any other public comments that are not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Chris Mangles. I'm a professor of theater here at COS. I'm in my 7th year of a job that is the best thing that ever happened. For many years, I'm a student of COS myself. For many years, I dreamt of teaching. I had the opportunity to teach adjunct here in the early 2000s. When the big cuts came in 2003, I was the first one to go. And searched for a long time looking for something. When I found it at COS, it was a dream come true to me. Being back home, even though I live in Santa Monica, my family, my wife, my daughter still live in Santa Monica. Being back home from Exeter, Visalia, was the greatest thing that ever could happen. I'd like to address the elephant in the room, perhaps. The last 2 years since negotiations started to have breakdowns between Costa and between the association and the district, I have found myself feeling more and more alienated from the community. I find that it feels less like the need to help the school and more like a battle between personalities. It's very difficult for me, a person who comes usually about 7 in the morning and leaves about 11 o'clock at night. I do a lot for my students. I know my students' parents by name. I know what they do. I know what my students want to do when they leave. I know what they do when they're not in front of me. And I love them. And it is difficult that in this time where I feel like labor is becoming vilified and teachers are becoming vilified, it is difficult to stay focused sometimes on the matter at hand, which is to serve the public, which is what I'm here for. I am a public servant. The association is my association. The district is my district. And I would like to say, just to everyone involved, that I'd love to see more level heads prevail as we try to find a solution for all of us. I believe in compromise, I believe in moderation, and I believe in sacrifice on all sides. And I just wanted to express my hope that we can return to what we do, which is serving the community and educating our students, all of us at all times. Thank you.
Well said. Are there any other not on the agenda items?
I'm Milena Sayed. I'm a librarian at COS.
What was your name again? Say it again.
Milena Sayed. I'm too nervous to speak, so I have a paper. Just a second, my colleague. First, I want to thank actually our superintendent for his honesty and openness with us. I really appreciate that, and that's why I felt encouraged to actually write a letter, but maybe it's better to read what I had in mind, and I hope you don't mind me sharing a personal letter. The problem that I see is not how terrible the current budget situation is, or how draconian the solvency plan appears to be. It is not even about the transparency of what is being planned for COS and the future of our students. It appears that COS employees are completely excluded from any conversation about the plan in any decision making. At least I can speak for the faculty because I'm one of them. I feel that our input and opinion are not important and valued. You need to know that it's very difficult to function on a day-to-day basis, struggling to offer the best service with much less resources, feeling helpless and muted. We are the ones who teach our students critical thinking skills and prepare them to take an active role in our community, while at the same time, we appear to be only passive recipients of more bad news. It is painful to witness how our union, I'm talking about COSTA, is being disrespected and even ignored. See that 20 plus years of negotiations are being undone, the contract being stepped over, grievances kept on being filed, people being treated as senseless figures on a chessboard, our voices being unheard. I understand that you do consider the best interest for our students and our community, and that you probably have a completely different view, but this is how the situation looks like from my little gloomy corner right now. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments that's not on the agenda? Student trustee report.
This month has been really, really busy for ASB. We've been through Halloween. We did a carnival and contest. We did a relay race. I wasn't out there for most of it, but I heard it was turned out really good. There was an eye contest. They helped set up booths with candy and handed out candy. We also did Prop 30. The Democratic Club came into our open session and we went up to the corner in and out and we hung out Prop 30 flyers. October 19th, 20th, 21st, we went to a conference in Los Angeles for ASB, and we went to different workshops and we learned about different things. My favorite workshop was probably the Brown Act. I didn't have any prior knowledge to anything that it said, so I really asked a lot of questions and got a lot of information.
What did you learn?
I didn't know that you had to post the agenda 72 hours before. There's also, I heard something about a advisory vote for the super trustee, which I also didn't hear about. Yeah, I learned a lot. It was really appreciated. We started a closed strike for the battered women's shelter, and we're doing game drivers. We hosted two, I didn't know we hosted them, but there were two workshops that some of the ASB members went to, the domestic violence and the bullying workshop. I heard there was only standing room and that it went very well. We're doing a craft fair, base craft fair, for students who make plans and donating them. And today we have soup day. They served over 500 people and made an $85 profit. Pride Club, Social Work Club, AGS, ASB, ASL Club, and some Visalia Pride 9 members showed up in homes. And we put together a student task force doing surveys for the food services. So far, Subway has been the overall winning score for those. And we're planning on COS Has Talent, November the 27th, where students can come into the coffee shop and show different talents, and we'll have judges and we'll get prizes. And Christmas parade, we're going to participate, but no attendance.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Board member report.
I just wanted to remind you fellow board members about the county board workshop this Thursday evening. Those are very nice workshops. I think all of you received an invitation, and if you have an opportunity, you should attend, because they are very valuable and give you a lot of insight into various things.
Anything else?
I would like to just comment about the Tulare Auxiliary fundraiser in Tulare, where we honored Ken and Sue as the first Tulare Giants, and there was a tremendous crowd, over 200 people. And I would just like to thank all the administrators that came and faculty and COS folks that were there. I think it was real helpful for the community to meet and greet and see teachers in classrooms, and the architecture program was a hit there. I think lots of people left feeling real excited about what that's going to be in Tulare, and it was just fun to be in a venue where you could feel excitement and enthusiasm. Just want to congratulate Ken again.
It was a fun evening, and I mean, the people from the community over there, they were already excited about that center. So, yeah.
Thanks, Lord, and I certainly appreciated the honor, but I was glad that Sue was on that list, because otherwise the crowd might have been much smaller.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I won't repeat what people said, but I live in Hanford, and I attended, and I was extremely pleased with the enthusiasm the committee has for the college. And their enthusiasm, of course, is for the center there, but it's obviously have a deep-seated enthusiasm for the entire district. And it was a fun event, and everybody really enthused. And Ken, you're a good first choice. You and two together. It's obvious that the community Tulare looks up to both of you.
And if you haven't been to that campus, you need to go see it. It is something.
And I don't know
for all of us to be proud of.
I don't know for sure who did what, but Larry Ditto's in charge, and they, whoever made sure that the people that came to the event got to see that it's not just a building, but it's a college. And I'm supposed to know what we're doing, but I must say I was very impressed.
Right. Any other board member reports? Foundation report.
evening. We have some good news. We just received $50,000 from Mary Arnett to increase her endowment for scholarships. That was a stock transfer to her account. We also received, Foundation also received a $25,000 grant, which we had applied for from Sequoias Edison, which 4 classes will be added, one at each campus for the fall semester, and the rest will go to scholarships to engineering and math students. The Tulare chapter, we're in the process of revising our bylaws, and we're changing the nomenclature as we frequently do at COS. Instead of auxiliaries, the 3 divisions of the foundation will be called chapters. We want to be more inclusive. People felt like they were not part of the foundation, that they were part of a separate organization, and we don't want to. We want to bring that all back together, that they're all foundation board members. The Tulare chapter did a fabulous job of putting on the event in Tulare. Almost every board member, every foundation board member participated, and even though this wasn't supposed to be a fundraiser, it was friend and fun, and we made about $16,000 on the event. And that will go toward that campus. As a result of that event, we have had many inquiries. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow with people who are interested in donating for specific classrooms or for specific areas. Robert and Sherry Bell have already given $5,000 for one of the smart boards we're buying for a classroom. Let's see. Events that are coming up. Power of the Purse is Thursday at noon, or 11:30 for previewing the purses. That's at Visalia Country Club. It's $45. There's still room. We have over 85 purses of all different values. So we would like you to buy the $1,000 purse, but if you don't want to buy that one, we have for less money. They're all in my office right now. I can hardly move. And there are volunteers over there right now, including Stan's wife, who are going through them and evaluating whether they think that we should start that. The Hanford Chamber of Commerce, I believe this, has a tree auction, and we are participating in that. There will be ornaments on the tree for COS. They're $250 each, and they will go for scholarships for Hanford students. And then Hall of Fame is coming up February 16th. That will hopefully be in the old gym. And we have several recipients for that, recipients of the Hall of Fame membership. And as I said before, we're in the process of revising our bylaws to reflect how we really organize and how we really work. So we want to thank Tom Rogerson for all the work he's done on that. He's on our board and donated a lot of time to help. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Accreditation report.
Before I started, I wanted to thank Annie Silvers for her comments about the faculty. I was able to go out to the soup line today and serve soup for 30 minutes with the faculty and students, and I'm so impressed with the incredible work all of the faculty members mentioned are doing, along with all the students, our student community. I was there, I just gave out 150 cups of soup, so it was really a great event. As far as accreditation, we should have our, sorry, I have a handout. I apologize. This is the most recent document that shows our accreditation recommendations and the standards that they connect to, and also a tentative list of the different groups on campus who will be taking a lead on the different recommendations. As you recall from our meeting, we had 3 commendations from the visiting team for our student services programs. For number 2, our facilities and our vision with facilities, and number 3, the President's Monthly Forum with the students. Under our recommendations, the first was on student learning outcomes, and tentatively we have a list next to that about who will be taking the lead on researching, planning, and doing some assessment about the recommendation. So in this case, IPEC is the Institutional Planning and Effectiveness Committee, and I co-chair that with the Academic Senate Vice President. Institutional Planning Effectiveness Committee, our charge is accreditation and the process of accreditation. So that committee will be responsible for overseeing the majority of it and working with the different groups. So, for example, the Student Learning Outcomes will work with Academic Senate or Outcomes and Assessment Committee to address this particular recommendation. Our second recommendation was on improving campus dialogue, which we would work with College Council. And there are several groups that are subgroups of College Council that would work then on that area. The third one is planning, so we'll work with College Council standing committees on that. This is the tentative plan presenting to you that we'll work with. And the fourth one was in expanding our research capacity, and we would work with the Research Advisory Committee on that. The evaluation of processes, and that will be the working with College Council and Academic Senate on that. The Student Support Services would be working with the Student Services Council, the Distance Education at COS Committee, and the Tulare and Hanford campuses on expanding student support services for evenings and off other campuses. And the third one is Human Resources Processes, and that would be working with our Equal Employment Opportunity Committee and the Human Resources Office. So this is the exact language from the report that we received from our chair, Lee Duncan, and then some tentative recommendations of who will take the lead on addressing those recommendations. We should get our full report with the final language in December, and it goes to the ACCJC for their meeting in January. They will be meeting January 10th and 11th. And they will be at that point making their final decision about what the final recommendations are, if we are to be on warning, or what the final status will be. So we should know that sometime shortly after January 11th. In addition, we're planning on January 11th is our convocation for spring, and we're planning to focus that around the accreditation recommendations. So I'm working with our Institutional Planning Effectiveness Committee on pulling that meeting together for convocation. The last thing I wanted to say is, on top of our accreditation, we are in the middle of our nursing accreditation. The Board of Registered Nursing arrived today, and they are evaluating our nursing program, so they'll be here throughout the week, and we're looking forward to a very successful accreditation visit there, because we know the quality of our nursing program. They put a lot of work into getting that together, so I want to commend all of them that are here and thank them for the hard work that they're doing to serve us in this week of the accreditation for the nursing program.
Jennifer, how does that nursing accreditation, does it overlap, or where does it fit into this accreditation?
It's a separate process.
Nothing does overlap.
It doesn't overlap. They have their own, and it's a 7-year, Cindy, is that right?
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Yes.
So they're on their 5-year
So
cycle.
different criteria and everything.
Yes.
Yes. And they have, one of the things they have, we talked about, they have tons and tons of exhibits that they have to pull together. So they've spent the whole summer pulling these exhibits together, and they look at all these exhibits, and then they meet with the faculty and the students and the staff. And
visit the facilities, and they went to Hanford today, Hanford Community Hospital. They'll be at Kalia and Tulare. They talked to students, the faculty. A self-written report was submitted. It's kind of a mini version of the
I wouldn't
campus.
say mini, because their report's bigger than mine was. So I think it's the same as what we've done.
Maybe. Yeah.
Not as many standards with harder ones.
Well, I don't even know. I think there's a lot of as many standards, actually. Yes. Yeah.
So they've done an incredible job pulling that together, and so I'm confident we have a very good report in a couple of days from now.
Well, this was the first year then, or the first time in that new facility over there.
Yes, it is. And she was very impressed with especially the simulation skills lab. Yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank, once again, to thank Jennifer for all the hard work you did towards the accreditation, especially taking over midstream from Duncan, and all the staff and chairs from the faculty that put a lot of hard work into that. I know I only attended a couple of meetings of one of the standards. I think Stephen Toley was chair of that group, and just didn't know how much it took to get all that done. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. President Superintendent.
So just a couple of items to share tonight. A couple of things that have happened on our campus both Friday and today that you may or may not be aware of, and they're somewhat connected together. This past Friday, we joined together with Randy Wallace of Tulare County Office of Education and the Workforce Investment Board, along with College of the Sequoias, to host what's called the Entrepreneur Tour. And it's an opportunity for high school students from around the area to come together and to participate in a 3 or 4 hour presentation with a group that specializes in focusing on students and their focus in private business and the opportunities for innovation and interest. And so it was well attended. We had about 60 students come out on a Friday, and the guest speaker, C.J. Carrion, was a self-developed artist, author, business owner, and a relatively young man who presented to them. So I think it was something that the students really connected to, and wanted to thank Dr. Dudo for helping us get that set up. On a little bit larger scale and more sophisticated level today, we had the 7th annual Central Valley Venture Forum here on the College of the Sequoias campus. This is a project conducted by Fresno State and the Lyles Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Dr. Tim Stearns was here to kick that off. He worked locally with business folks in our community, including Stan Simpson. And then I especially want to thank on our staff, Frank Calvin, for being their liaison and getting all of the logistics set up. We had over 150 people here. And the headline of presentations was pretty star-studded, including Dan Walters from the Sacramento Bee and a couple of international business presenters talking about the area, the Central Valley as a region, economic development in an area like ours, the emerging Hispanic market in California and in the country. So it was very sophisticated, and it was nice for College of the Sequoias to be host to that. And then finally, I had planned a few comments just in the post-Proposition 30 passage environment, and I think they'll dovetail a little bit with what Chris and Milena came up and shared today. We are in a better place now that Proposition 30 has passed. Regardless of your politics and whether or not you think it's the right structural change to help California's budget woes, I think we all feel like the governor put a proposal on the ballot that did indeed somewhat hold public education hostage to pass this vote or have more damage happen to public schools. What I would tell people in the community when I was talking to them is that may well be the case politically, but we're in charge of those students. There are students that are being held hostage, and we think they're worth the ransom. And so I'm glad that enough California voters felt that way. To clarify a little bit what Ed had shared earlier, here's what actually happens now that Prop 30 has passed. It guarantees flat funding. And all of you who have been reading the literature, what you know is flat funding means that there are a series of cuts now that won't come to our general fund that we had anticipated may come before the passage of Prop 30. There isn't any new money, so the only thing that wasn't quite accurate in Ed's comments is there isn't an additional $2.3 million. It's $2.3 million that was due us that's now guaranteed, according to Prop 30, guaranteed to come. And that maintains our funding at a flat level. So where it will look new, though, is in our solvency plan. Tonight, we're going to do the second reading of a solvency plan that was a worst-case scenario plan. And the good news is we're going to be able to table that. There's no reason to adopt a worst-case scenario plan when we have a better scenario. So we'll be coming back to the board in December with adjustments to that plan. And I think there'll be appropriate adjustments. At least the best recommendation is for the board to consider. Prop 30 does bring an additional $2.7 million in general fund income and about $350,000 or $400,000 in what the budget or the governor's budget calls growth or restoration money. So about $3 million coming back to us, which is good. The structural deficit we've been sharing with you from the very beginning is $4.5 million. If you subtract 3, that leaves us with about 1.5. As we've been sharpening the pencil, it looks like it could be 1.5 to 1.7 million is our real structural deficit. So we still have to figure out how to fix that. But it's a much better scenario than what we had before. In the fiscal solvency plan that you saw the first time, we were also still using reserves. We were spending one-time restricted reserves on ongoing expenses. One of those reserves was the other post-employment benefits, which is our actuarial fund for retiree health benefit costs. And the other was money restricted from Measure I. So whether or not we want to still use as much of those one-time reserve monies for ongoing expenses will be part of the adjustment and consideration that the board needs to make. So it looks better, and we'll be working on trying to improve that. You know, to the question about participation in the process, I guess one of the things that I would share is what I'm learning about, especially about the community college system and our campus in particular, is so much of the decision making isn't really in the shared governance model or the participatory governance model as much as it is intertwined with the collective bargaining agreement. So a big part of the participation in decision making has to come through negotiations. That's what the collective bargaining process is. And while we're at, you know, a difficult place now in grievances and defining grievances and responding to grievances, we're also at a difficult place we're in post fact-finding mediation negotiations that are complete, and we're looking to start our next round of negotiations. So that's where I think many of our solutions are going to lie, in that shared decision-making process at the table. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to resume negotiations quickly. Ed said tonight we're not ready to sunshine. We had listed a November timeline in here really as a placeholder, because a few weeks ago I sent Ed a letter that said we're going to sunshine our interest in October. We invite you to consider doing the same, or consider the November meeting. At that time, we set up a place hoping that they would be ready to sunshine in November. They're not. That's okay. But as soon as we sunshine and as soon as we resume negotiations, I think that's where the vast majority of the decisions are going to be worked on, and hopefully compromises reached in order to be able to make those. Outside of what's negotiable, there's very little in the budget, very little amount in the budget to try to attack a $1.7 million deficit. So that's kind of maybe not the answer you wanted, but my response to why so much of our time and energy has been focused on working through the unions and the negotiations. And I do.
Excuse me.
No.
The young lady that spoke a little bit earlier about not that the teachers feel like they have no input. How do they get input? They do it through their union?
Well, in the negotiations process, anything that's negotiable, they do have to go to their exclusive bargaining representative. And finally, I do want to thank our California School Employees Association. We were able to continue our mediation with them. We were successful at reaching an agreement. I think it was hard work. It was a long day. Everybody would tell you that both sides walked out tired and not completely satisfied, and most of the time that's evidence that some pretty good negotiations took place. And so we have an agreement in place now with our Classified Employees Association. We'll be inviting them to start successor negotiations as well. And I just responded to an email to Don today reminding CASAFA that we haven't forgotten about our adjunct, and it is time to reach out and have John contact our adjunct and set dates so that we can start negotiation process with CASAFA as well. That's all.
Any questions or comments of the President? Academic Senate President's report.
Good evening. Sandra Bergen and I just came back from the plenary session in Irvine, and we were a little bit worried how depressing it was going to be if Prop 30 didn't pass, and obviously we were all excited. It was a wonderful session. Bryce Harris, the new chancellor, was there, and he said wonderful things about faculty and the sacrifices that we've made during this time. I think he's going to be a great chancellor, and just as I like Jack Scott for other reasons, I think for us at this moment, Bryce Harris is going to be a fantastic chancellor. I did see a wonderful presentation on the ARC scorecard. You all will be seeing the ARC scorecard in March. It must be presented to the board and it must be published. I have the PowerPoint presentation and I would like to bring it to you at the December meeting so that you can understand what the student success metrics are going to be. It's very important that you understand what they are because the board is responsible for the ARC scorecard. What shall I say, sunshine to everyone.
How much time do you need?
I think I can do it in 15. Yeah, and it was presented by one of the 4 faculty that actually sat on the metrics committee, and they did a great job. They were all mathematicians, but I even understood it, so I'm like, yay. It's very strange, but some things come back, and the sustainability agenda for the state of California has come back. So the 60s hippy-dippy people are back. And I went to a really wonderful session on that, and sustainability on our campus right now is through things like Soup Day, and also some things that Kayla Pace has been looking at, such as a food bank and some other things. And I'd just like to thank Paul Tidwell and Jeff Basham. They are advisors, and also the ASB for the work that they're doing in sustainability, so thank you. Why are colleges placed on sanction? This was a great breakout on accreditation, and I bet you can't guess what the two main ones are for right now. It's not SLOs. It's planning, which we are getting a recommendation for, and boards. And I'm glad to say we're not getting a recommendation for boards. It's interesting because we have 3 colleges that may close, San Francisco City College being the largest. And one of the suggestions that came out of that discussion was somehow they had engaged in a type of shared governance that damaged them. I'm here to say that that is not what damaged San Francisco City College. Shared governance is a good thing. And I have to differ with our president on this issue, that the voice of the faculty is split between the union and the Senate. There are Senate issues and there are COSTA issues, and we know what they are. We will be bringing to you a series of, what shall I say? They're going to be resolutions from a shared governance task force. We don't think we're doing really great for shared governance, and I think you heard that from the audience also. I think we could do better. And so I want to make the board aware of that, and one of the first things that we'll bring is probably the use of the Tulare campus. It's a resolution that I sent you about a month ago, and we'll be talking about that a little bit. But I do think shared governance is alive and well, and I don't think it has anything to do with the closing of San Francisco City College. I think that's it.
Go into a little bit more about boards, what the boards get written up for, that kind of thing.
Well, in Compton, there was malfeasance, which is what closed the Compton College. And in San Francisco, I believe the president is actually going to jail. So these are
president of the board?
The president of the college. And there was malfeasance. No, but it's interesting. There were 20 colleges that were placed on sanction for planning, the lack of planning. And I think that what we've done in the past is make a lot of backdoor decisions that nobody was privy to. And I think the more that we make those transparent, the more we can live in a good shared governance atmosphere. And I know that that's one of the things that our president said he wants to do, is make everything transparent. And I applaud that. I just don't think we're there yet.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. I'm assuming we won't hear from Costa because we've already heard from him.
Is there another rep?
Okay.
Yes, Costa, we'd just like to agree with what the Senate President said, that there is a role that is shared governance that does not involve Costa. We are dealing with, Costa deals with those things that are work-related, and the Senate deals with all things academic. And so I don't think you can marginalize and say that the majority of what we do is just Costa-related and just work-related. We work well together with the Senate. We value what the Senate inputs. Many of the Costa representatives sit on Senate, so that we make sure that we can coordinate and triangulate information to make sure that we each understand our respective purviews and what's covered, and we even send out information to all of our members about what's under which purview under Senate and what's under Costa. So we support what Michelle just stated, and just want to reiterate what we agree.
CSEA President report.
Yes, first I would like to thank, it's a hard word to use in this case, but I'd like to thank everybody involved in the negotiations process. First, I want to thank my 8 negotiating team, one of which Marcy's right there, and she can attest that for the last 2 years it has not been an easy process from your end or our end. I mean, we're in difficult times, but I'd like to thank the team. I'd like to thank the membership. There's 170 of us out there that are scared and see what's happening. And so this is not, it's been change and compromise, and fear it's a debilitating factor. That's why we all need to work together in order to get past it. Also, I'd like to thank, through the last 2 years, the Honorable Judge Bratch here and Brent and Stan now, who have come on board. We've tried many different compromises along the way. Some were about to work, and then the state devastated us. Some didn't go anywhere. And I'd like to thank Joe Rios, who was our mediator, who came in, and I don't think without him we would have come to this compromise, because I think both sides were far enough apart. And I'd like to thank the board for considering the mediator's proposal. It was not an easy one for either side, especially for our side, because this has been a topic that's been one that was the least favorite in my 20 years. I mean, salaries and benefits are the biggest thing out there. And we are a people-run organization, so that's the way it should be. But I just want to say thank you to all involved. It's been a hard process. I know we're not done with it yet. And as always, CSEA stands firm that we will continue to work with the district to find solutions to the problems we have ahead. But the key to that is working together. And as I stated at a previous board meeting, the COS family, when it works all together, achieves greatness. We've proved that in the past, and we need to get back to that and prove that for the future. Thank you.
General obligation bonds, the Measure I next board meeting will be, or their next oversight meeting will be March 5th, 2013. At this time, we have a report from the oversight chairman, Bob Lyon.
Thank you, Mr. President. And one of the things I wanted to cite too is your president, Stan, was honored at the Boy Scouts of America for a dinner, which was well attended, and a lot of people there, and gave a great spotlight, a lot of money to the Boy Scouts of America, Sequoias County. So congratulations to them too. This is Boy Scouts. This is, I believe, the third time that I brought a report on Measure I, as chairman of the Oversight Committee for Measure I. And I've worked with 3 superintendent presidents in that short time. We had, of course, obviously Bill Scroggins, and then Brent Calvin, and now Sam Sosa, all of which have been very good to work with and very supportive of our committee, and provided all of the materials and information that we needed to make our recommendations and decisions. This is the annual report, as I say, to the board. You have it. You probably had a chance to read it through it, so I'm not going to obviously go through the entire report, but I would like to make a few, or have a few highlights for you during for the report. First of all, we are not meeting as frequently now as we had at the outset, because obviously a lot of the projects have either been completed or well in progress, and therefore we haven't had to meet as frequently. But we did meet this last year. We met, I think, a year from last September. Then we met again in March of this year, and then again this September. And there will be another meeting scheduled for March, I believe, of 2013. And at that time, some of us will be termed out of office at that point. But I think that, as I said, most of the work of the committee has pretty much well been completed at this point. If you'll look at your report, if you have it there with you, I wanted to also point out that there will be an annual audit which had begun back in June and will be completed next month. So you will be receiving that information also on all of the various projects of Measure I. But as you look down through the projects and you can see the various items, the money that was encumbered, and what is presently still available. And I think I've counted only about 6 items on that long list that are still in some way in progress. Your Kern building, the update of that project there's still some work to be done there, and you have some money available balance. The annual computer lease, of course, is something that's ongoing. The COP payoff is also an ongoing item, so we'll continue on that. The gym is pretty well, everything was to be done there, in addition to what the state did, has been pretty well completed. There is, I think, a little money left and may need a few additional items that will be available to the gym. And then, of course, the scheduled maintenance, and this is, I know, very important now that you've been having to really scrape the budget in order to keep up with just the normal maintenance of the facility. So there is some additional money available there that can be used for that purpose, for whatever priority projects that you have, as the board designates. And then the bond general expense, which is has some $23,000 left plus that. One thing I would like to mention too is I think well, I'm sure this is true in all the bonds that have been passed during this time of economic downturn, is that the taxpayer who is paying on those bonds are getting a lot for their money, because of all the different projects that we had, we got a lot more accomplished because the contractors, people were really sharpening their pencils, and a lot of them just want to keep their people working. And so as a result of that, the college has benefited. Now it's a difficult thing to say, you know, everybody else is suffering, but you're benefiting from the bond issue, but that is the truth, and I think that has been very probably helpful to you at this particular time. At our September meeting, we did review again all of the various bond revenues and how they were expended, and on the specific projects that they were designated for by the voters. And we certainly want to say that no salaries have been used inappropriately, or any personnel salaries, either teacher or administrative or school operating expenses. They've gone for what the taxpayers voted for those projects. So I think that our committee approved that, and we forwarded it on to you. And when you take action tonight, we will sign that and get it in as reported. I think that I should have probably prefaced this by saying that on a 55% bond passage, the law education code does require that an oversight, citizens oversight committee be established, and that's what the college did. And we had some really great people on that committee. I don't want to go into all the different folks that are represented on there, but they've been very faithful about attending and having input. And we've had open meetings. Anybody could come and speak to our committee, and we have notified the media in every one of our meetings, so they had an opportunity to be there also. So with that, I think I will conclude my.
Bob, let me ask you a question. Now, you got $4.4 million left roughly. You have the oversight. The oversight committee has to continue until that's all used up.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. That would say some of us will be going off in March, but there will be other people who you will appoint to take our place, and that will go on until all the money is spent, and we can certify that.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to Measure J. Their next meeting will be February 25th, 2013, and Tony DeRose is here.
Hi, Jim.
Their reports. Hi, Tony. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I will apologize so that you know where my priorities are. I got a call from my grandson this last weekend. He's coming after Christmas, and he asked me if I could grow a beard and look like Santa Claus when he gets in. So that's the reason for this. But it's also to help prove to my family that it's not entirely white. So I'll accomplish his.
It's not long enough to tell yet, though.
We'll see. We'll wait. I have. You all have in your packets the Oversight Matrix J Committee activity report. Which, if you have any questions on that, if you've had a chance to look at, it's very simple. That's the meetings that we have. For all of you to know, the project is on schedule. And what was mentioned before, if you have not had an opportunity to go out and look at the campus, please do. I think I can speak for the entire community of Tulare as to how proud we are to have that there. It is an incredible campus with a great, great future. This was handed out earlier. We got these as well as our last meeting. I love this, and I had used it. I actually kept it in my briefcase so that when I had questions about how big is it, here it is. What is it going to, how many classes, here it is. So all of those things in this great, great little handout for you to see. But I want to see any questions on the activity report that you may have.
So you have 24 million left.
Yeah, we did. And we, as what was said before with Bill, we were able to, or they were able to take advantage of the situation that got more for less with the economy than there was.
Yeah. Yeah, millions of dollars in saving now. So
that's good.
Yeah. That's good. Any questions? Are you looking for motion? You got some more report? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the report for Measure J.
Second. All right. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, information items, quarterly financial report. How are you?
This is the first quarter financial report ending September 30th, 2012. As you see on the first page, the column on the far right is the projected ending balance for 12/13. This is based on the working budget as of September 30th. So it is not, it's a projection of where we would be in year end if everything in the budget was spent exactly as budgeted. As you see there, it has on line E an ending fund balance of $1.6 million, which is 3.6% of the general fund budget, ending fund balance. Of course, this is not how we would actually end the year. This is just the working budget. So this does not have in here, it's not been updated for the passage of Prop 30. It doesn't have anything in there to do with the budget solvency plan because that has not been approved yet. The benefits caps are not in there as of yet. So this is just kind of a snapshot of how we would end at June 30th if we did nothing and we spent everything in our fund. So that's what this report is designed to do. As you see on page 2, it actually talks about our cash. This is something that is becoming much more difficult to manage with the state deferrals and the lower state budget. So as you see here at September 30th, we had a total cash of $1.9 million. $3.5 million of that was borrowed, and that was borrowed from our municipal lease at Valley Business Bank. The other items on the report, if you look at page 3, is that we did settle the post-fact-finding settlement. It was in here with the imposing the benefits cap on Costa, so that is noted in here. And then it also is noted in here that we do have fiscal problems, but we are addressing them. We're putting together a new budget solvency plan. At this time, it had been presented to the board on October 15th. Now, Prop 30 has passed. That budget solvency plan will be changing, and we'll talk about it again at the second quarter report. Were there any questions on the quarterly report or anything that you would like me to address?
Any questions? No question. Quarterly budget accountability.
This is the budget accountability report. And if you look at the first report listed there, this is how did we actually end last fiscal year. So this is fiscal year 11-12. It shows the final adopted budget versus the final working budget, and then where we actually ended, so year-end actuals. The first footnote here is our ending fund balance at June 30th, 2012 was $2.7 million, which is a 5.99% percentage for ending fund balance. And that we made a note here that the Chancellor's Office feels that a district that drops below 3% is in fiscal distress. The first footnote A talks about the revenue limit. Last year, there were a lot of uncertainties as we went through the year. At the P1 in February, we were surprised with a deficit factor of 1.4 million due to the Tier 1 cuts and the student revenue fee shortfall. But in late June, when we got the P2, that deficit factor had decreased to 1 million, which was very helpful to us. And that was due to the student fee revenue shortfall not being as high as anticipated. One note here is that the Community College League of California, they advocated on our behalf so that districts were assured that we would be held harmless for any shortfall in the REA wind-down revenue. One caveat to that is there's still almost $1 million outstanding on that has not been paid to us. And we have they have not talked to us about how that payment will come or when it will come. I'm hoping it will be here by February 2013 at the P1. But until it's in hand, it's a little bit hard to count on. The other footnote is for other revenue. Footnote B, the major increase in other revenue was due to mandate cost revenue. That was approximately $226,000. We don't ever budget for mandate cost revenue because it's so uncertain. We're never told in advance when we get it, and most years we don't get anything. So in 11-12, we did receive a payment of $226,000. Footnote C is contributions to restricted funds. In fiscal years where a categorical fund has a shortfall, the unrestricted general fund will contribute funds to cover the shortfall. The Disability Resource Center had a shortfall of $205,000, which was covered by the unrestricted general fund. And the Child Development Center had a shortfall of $156,000. This is primarily due to the decline in enrollment because of the facility being moved to the heart of the Valley Church. The projected shortfall for 12-13 for the Child Development Center is only $12,000. They've achieved that through attrition and some layoffs, actually. And then the total fund balance drawn. The drawn ending fund balance was reduced by shifting allowable general fund operating expenses to the Visalia bond. Those items were technology, $725,000, and COP payments of $413,000. Were there any questions on that report on how we ended 11-12?
No.
Next report, this comes to the board monthly. The quarterly, we pull it out as so that we can present it to you. Just to highlight a few items. This always compares what you're going to be asked to approve tonight at tonight's meeting versus what you approved in October at that meeting, and shows the differences. The increase in other revenue of $2.1 million is primarily due to the carry forwards of categorical budgets of $1.6 million. And then increases in categorical allocation of $385,000. And then the student material fee revenue went in of $56,000. The corresponding, the other note is that our fund balance drawn did increase slightly by $3,000. And that's due to carry forwards for the drama overtime budget, the tutors for University Prep High School. The reason the tutors were carried forward is that's actually funds that TCOE gave us last year, so whatever wasn't spent was carried forward to the new year. And then $1,700 for football helmets. The corresponding increase to expenses of $2.1 million is due entirely to categorical carry forward and the increase in the allocation, and then the student material fee budgets. Were there any questions on that report or anything you'd like to look at in more detail?
Yeah, when you say report, it's, am I right in saying that that's money that's there that wasn't spent for that year?
Yes, it was not spent last year, and it's our funds that we have received in hand, so those are carried forward to the new year. Or in some instances, there are actually budgets where, like a categorical is authorized $500,000, they only spend $250,000. The remaining $250,000 can be spent in the following year, but we don't have the cash on hand until the funds are actually spent. But those are restricted funds that
yeah, they all
were given in play.
When you list all those revenue changes under A,
yes,
those funds all have to be spent in those areas. Is that why they're all listed separately? Am I correct to say that?
That is correct.
Yeah, I had a question. When I'm looking at the unrestricted report, one of the first reports, the unrestricted general fund 1112 report that shows total expenses of $44,958,000, and that's the actual total expenses for the year ending June of 12.
Yes, the only thing that's not included there are the contributions to restricted funds. That's why it's listed separately, the $361,000.
Okay. And then when I look at the report you were just going over, the working budget, the column 11, 13, and 12 that projects it out at $55 million for this year.
It includes categoricals. The first report is unrestricted general fund only. The second report is restricted and unrestricted.
Okay, including income and expense both have to have more.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's because TCOE requires that you approve the entire general fund budget, so that's why it's presented together. Were there any other questions on those reports? The next report is the revenue projections that are annualized. This is as of September 30th. The notes, the state revenue mandate cost block grant amount of $231,308 should be actually it was received in November. And then the $55,000 that shows on this report as received by September 30th, that was a payment on a prior year claim. So we'll have the $231,000 in revenue plus the $55,000. So the $55,000 is what I explained earlier, that we don't ever budget for that because it's uncertain when it comes in. I also made a note that the first quarter lottery is generally paid in January. So there's quite a bit of lag time on when lottery actually comes in. Were there any questions on the revenue report? The next report is the annualized expenditure report for unrestricted general fund. This is looking at projecting out our expenses through June 30th and comparing them to budget. As you can see, we look pretty good except for benefits, are over budget by $703,000. That is due to the way that the OPEB trust would reimburse us for the pay-as-you-go for retiree expenses. So those are not budgeted in our budget, and that's $1.3 million. But we're paying that right now, and then at June 30th, if we decide that the OPEB will pay those, we would then request a drawdown on the OPEB, and they would abate against our benefits. So our benefits expense will actually go down by $1.3 million at June 30th if it's decided to go that way. The other expenses are in line and show that we would be within budget. Were there any questions on this report?
Go ahead.
The next report is the year ending, financial report is ending June 30th. This you did not see yet, is why I'm presenting both of them. This just lays out in one sheet where you can see a snapshot of each of the different fund groupings here. You see what we've already gone over. General fund had a June 30th ending fund balance of $2.7 million. Total cash of $1.6 million, but as you see in the footnote, the majority of that was borrowed. Are there any questions on this report? The final report is the same report, except it's for the first quarter ending September 30th. We want to make sure you understand that the ending fund balance for the general fund as of September 30th, that negative $1.3 million, it doesn't mean that we're projecting out by year end will be negative $1.3 million. This is just a snapshot of the ending fund balance at a moment in time. So that's highly dependent on receipt of revenue from the state. The state has already started deferrals, so already we're in the intra-year deferrals, and then starting in January we'll be in the inter-year deferrals. So that's why you see the negative 1.3 million. Also, a lot of the categoricals, we pay the money up front, and then we're reimbursed later in the year or at year end, or in some cases the following year. So this is a snapshot as of September 30th.
So basically, the general fund through September had shown expenditures of $12 million, income of $8 million. So we borrowed on an operating line of some sort to cover that difference.
Yes, that's part of the cash flow.
Is Prop 30 going to help any of the cash deferrals, or is it too early to tell?
To the extent that they fulfill their commitment to allocate on time rather than defer, I think it will, but I don't know if it will cover all of us.
Are there any other questions?
Good job. Consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any board member or anyone in the audience to consider it as a separate item. I will not read these. Are there any items that need to be withdrawn? Hearing none, I have a motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, I think 5-0. Okay. The financial reports, we can get you guys all fired up.
I didn't vote, Greg, because I was not here, so I didn't feel that I should.
No, on which? The consent?
So I will abstain.
On this consent?
On the consent.
Okay, so it's 4-0. Yeah. All right. Action items. Approval of the 2012-2013 fiscal solvency plan. Mr. Calvin.
Well, as we've mentioned several times tonight, Prop 30 has changed our plan for our second reading of the fiscal solvency plan. Obviously, the numbers are going to change, and we respectfully request from the board the ability to come back in December with more accurate numbers. I do want to just state for the record, though, that even though Prop 30 passed, and that is great news, obviously, we're not going to get cut by $2.7 million more. We have a little bit of restoration money, about $350,000, $360,000 coming back in. It's great news. But it really doesn't do anything about the $4 million we lost last year. So we've still got a structural deficit of about $1.5 to $1.8 million. We'll flesh the actual numbers out a little bit more between now and December and bring back a plan with nicer numbers, but following kind of the same framework. We feel like the framework in our original fiscal solvency plan is a good one, and it's really necessary. We feel like it's a big reason why we didn't get a recommendation from our accrediting visiting team, because we were able to show that we were on top of the changing fiscal climate in the state. So with your approval, we'll come back in December with a framework similar to what you've seen, but certainly with different numbers to reflect the passing of Prop 30.
Do we need a motion for it?
Yeah, we do.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we table the 2012-2013 fiscal solvency plan as described by Brent and we have revised before.
Second. John, do you have a comment?
I was waiting to see if who made the motion. This is something really serious. You know, this is a tool that the whole public should take really serious as a tool to help us solve our structural deficits in the future. And Prop 30, of course, is very welcome news that enables us to attack our shortcomings in different ways. And I applaud the staff for wanting to take this so seriously and to take real numbers and come back and give us fresh ideas about how to deal with it. Because of having $3 million more to work with, we can actually maybe look at the priorities of what we want to deal with too. It might be different when we're not just trying to survive, but instead of trying to fix the college. So I guess I'm speaking in favor of the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll table item number 8. Item number 9 has been requested that we also table item 9. Do I have a motion to do that?
Move to table item 9. Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries to table item 9. Item 10, public hearing on the district's initial proposal for a successor contract with Costa. Mr. Ratch.
Thank you. At the special board meeting on October 15th of this past year, the district sunshined its initial collective bargaining proposal. The board was given a copy of that proposal as well as the audience, as well as the Costa president. At the October 15th meeting, I went over the district's interests. And I'm not going to reiterate those. They are included within the agenda item. But this time, I would like to point out that after the October 15th meeting, the district sunshine proposal was available for review by the public in the Office of HR from Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So the public has had plenty of time to review this proposal if it wished. We're here today for the public to have an opportunity to address the board with any comments or concerns they may have on the initial collective bargaining proposal which was presented to the board on October 15th. So at this time, the President would please open this meeting up for public comments.
Okay, I'd like to open a public hearing. Are there any public comment? Okay, hearing none, close the public hearing. We need action on this item.
Yes, the action would be for the board to officially acknowledge receipt of the district's initial collective bargaining proposal and authorize the district now to begin negotiations.
So moved. Okay. John first and Lori second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. How do you vote, Earl?
I vote aye.
Okay, 5-0. I couldn't hear it. I may need your aid. Yeah. Okay. Curriculum, new and modified and deleted.
We have the curriculum report from you, and as I mentioned in our last meeting, we'll be having a lot of curriculum coming up at our next few meetings as we're moving things through the system. On the first page, the computer English courses, those are general 5-year review of curriculum, including the second page. Most of these are just general 5-year review that we're required to do for every course. The electrician training has some modifications, 5-year review and some modifications to their units. If you look on page 3, most of these history, human services, music, paralegal, their minor changes, and mostly on 5-year review. On the last page, or the second to last page, page 4, we are pulling the Adobe Photoshop and the fire technology. Those are actually not ready to go to the board yet, so please pull Adobe Photoshop and fire technology. That was wishful thinking that they'd be through the CurriculNet system by today. We have a deletion of a certificate of achievement for the administration of justice. That's because they'll be pursuing our transfer model curriculum, a degree for that area. The last two on that page are art and kinesiology, and we're going to see a few of these because of the new repeatability laws in Title V. The programs that have repeatable courses where you can take them more than once are now having to develop other ways of taking courses. And so the art department is adding studio art as one of the options for taking courses, and the physical education department is adding kinesiology as another form of taking their courses. So those are adding new subjects to our curriculum. And on the last page, we have a GE policy update. So basically, the Academic Senate has approved, after how many years discussion, Michelle?
At least 20.
20 years discussion, a new GE transfer, or not a GE transfer, excuse me, a GE graduation format that is also included in your packet, and that was approved at Senate and at the Curriculum Committee and the College Council, and ready to go on for implementation. So those are the major curriculum issues. Are there any questions?
And we need to take action on this, right?
Yes.
And they do have a motion, and then we need to withdraw Adobe.
Withdraw, yeah, the two that I said, the
Adobe
fire
Photoshop.
technology and Adobe
Fire
Photoshop.
technology, okay. So that should be part of the motion, I would
Correct.
assume. So somebody want to make that motion?
I have a question.
Okay.
I know we talked a little bit about the repeatable courses, but I don't quite understand. The chancellor's mandate actually gave specific areas, and therefore some are, they need to be repeated, or I don't quite understand.
Okay,
Just give me a
so
little bit of
the law is that and there's only 3 ways that a course can be repeated now, and that's for an insufficient grade, and there's, of course, I'm not going to remember the 3 of them because I
That's
didn't bring
okay.
that
We've gone
before.
over
But
those.
we've gone
Yeah.
over the 3. So other courses, for example, are art courses. You could retake a sculpture class 4 times. We had sculpture, whatever number, A through D. So a student could take sculpture A, B, C, D. That is no longer able, you can't do that anymore by law. And so instead, what you can do is you create a family, what they're calling families of courses. So within the area of sculpture, we will create a family of sculpture courses. So it could be a sculpture, I don't know, art models.
So they're not
or something.
repeating the same class. They're
No,
just
it's
maybe
going to be a
on a
very
level of the
different
same
course,
class.
and they can take 4 within a family. And so,
Within the family, Lori, it's
But they're all
actually a
different.
progression
They're all
or a
different.
variation.
so they can't repeat the
Understood.
same course as they could anymore.
Understood. So but now they're still not able to do sculpture A 4 times though. They've got to
Correct.
get through it to
They
get
have
to
to.
B.
They would have to do 4 excuse me, 4 different
Yes.
courses in
That's-
sculpture,
that's
and the
what I-
max is 4 in sculpture. Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, under ABC, they were doing the same thing, most of them, those courses were different, so someone in Sacramento had decided they've got a brilliant idea. We don't have ABC anymore, we have a group.
1, 2, 3, 4.
A family.
Yeah,
I was
well,
trying to make sense
let me
literal,
give you-
and I still
okay,
didn't, but-
I'll give you an example. And okay, so tennis. Let's say you had tennis, and you could take beginning tennis 4 times. You could take intermediate tennis 4 times, and you could take advanced tennis 4 times. Now you can only take beginning tennis once, intermediate tennis once, and advanced tennis once.
What we're saying
Depending
is
on
you're doing the same thing, you just require, now they're just requiring you to do more work.
and the max you can do is 4. So you can't take before, you could take tennis 16 times.
Oh, you could.
Now
Okay, so
you
they
can
have
only
it.
take tennis
Okay.
4 times max. No matter how we call tennis,
It's only 4 times.
Okay, so they have changed the way
That
it
part,
applies.
that's the way it's applied,
That was my
has
question.
changed. So it's gone from 16 to 4. And the areas it's affected most are physical education, art, theater, music. So,
Daniel, you have one.
Daniel had a question.
Just to clarify, I meant hand building ceramics. And so the way my teacher sets it up, he'll address first semester, second semester, third semester, and fourth. And each semester you have a different syllabus. So it's still one class, but there's 4 different topics that you cover.
And now they're reported.
It'll be 4 different classes.
But the way he has it set up, so it fits the problem, they're all in the same classroom at the same time. He just addresses each semester.
Right.
Right.
So we're not going to get tiered like you're recommending for the UC system,
In which way?
where after you have so many units, you pay more for.
Oh, we haven't had that discussion yet.
I think it's a great idea that after so many units, if a kid can't graduate from COS.
Now, there is, Santa Monica City College is doing a tiered system. They're starting,
I think it's a great idea.
that may be a trend
Parents
coming
would
to
love it.
community college way, but not tonight.
Do I have a motion to approve? We got a lot on the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the list with the deletion of the Adobe Photoshop and the Fire technology, otherwise approve as presented.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Board, let's go into our financial aid services.
I'm taking Francis's place tonight. The first policy that we have is the financial aid services, and this is in line with some changes that occurred in federal legislation about 18 months ago. Really, it came out of a groundswell of concern for the profit type colleges that were private, and a lot of people took out large student loans and then couldn't find a job. So with that, some changes came through Title IV at the federal level, which is what authorizes our federal financial aid. And they strongly encourage, and the league is also advised, that we include language from misrepresentation in our policy that you see before you. So some of the things that we have to now disclose publicly are cost of attendance. We have on our financial aid web page what all the costs of attendance are fully disclosed. The number of people who receive degrees and certificates, and we also have to track employability now and report that for financial aid purposes. So this is really talking about the college, not misrepresenting itself. And so what we'd ask is that you review this and that we bring it back to the December meeting for approval.
Any questions?
So moved.
We got a motion on this? I don't think we need a motion. First reading. First reading. Okay. Okay.
Well, we actually told the date, don't we need to formally pass it on the second reading?
You can.
So we need a motion to formally pass it on.
I thought we usually did, but we don't all the time.
Well, you should.
I think we do.
Okay, let's do it. All right, I got a second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to the next meeting.
The next board policy is off-campus student organizations. This policy is legally required, although we do not currently have any off-campus student organizations. We're still required to have it, and we disclose that our local law enforcement critical district works with those.
What, give us an example of that?
If somebody's having an event off campus, that we would help monitor and assess if there was any type of criminal activity.
And the most common would be a Greek house off campus.
Okay.
We don't have any. So.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what you said.
So we'd also ask that we bring this back to you in the December meeting for approval.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to waive the first reading and pass on the second reading and consideration for adoption December 10 meeting.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried 5-0. All right. Review and adoption of faculty hiring procedure.
It came to light during accreditation that our faculty hiring procedures hadn't been reviewed since the year 2000. And as a result of that, it was, under the leadership of Academic Senate and Michelle Hester-Reyes, a subcommittee of Academic Senate reviewed the entire package of the faculty hiring procedures and made some minor changes. Some of the more substantive changes included changing the phrase affirmative action to equal employment opportunity. Law had changed with regards to affirmative action, and the language we had been operating under was outdated. So we made those changes throughout the hiring procedures. Other than that, there were a few minor changes, but not really substantive changes. I just felt it was a good opportunity to bring this to the board's attention, to review the current faculty hiring procedures we have, which were jointly prepared by the Academic Senate and the Office of HR. And I would ask that the board, after reviewing those, formally adopt the new faculty hiring procedures. And sorry to say, one of the other changes I forgot to mention was Larry Dudo's name as the Academic Senate President is no longer on.
Outdated by now, yeah.
God, that's going way back.
Is that how long ago you started on this?
John, you know, I requested, and I think maybe it's good to just revisit it, and when changes come like this, it's for me as a board member, and I'm thinking, I'm echoing the sentiments of the rest of my board members, it's nice to see the old with the new struck out. Any policy changes, you know, I like to see what are we replacing the old with. It just makes us understand what did we pass before. Then you can revisit it quickly without going to look it up, and then see what we're replacing it with when it comes to any kind of policy changes like this with the strikeouts.
Certainly.
You know, this is old, this is new. If you could just do that, and Stan, if you could make sure that happens, it helps with policy changes.
This has been a complaint the board's made
For years. Because if we have to go look at the old.
You want to table this then until we get those changes?
No, not on this one, but I'm thinking any policy changes going forward, it's nice to see the strikeouts, please. I'm okay with it.
All right. We have a motion approved?
So moved.
Okay. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Resolution for signatures, district bank. Item 15 through 19, I'm going to let Doug handle them all at once, and we'll vote on them. We have 2 roll call votes, so we'll vote on the other 2. We will just vote on with one motion.
Yes, items 15 through 19, with the exception of 16, primarily request Brent Calvin for Doug Brinkley in terms of signing and being having membership on JPA ongoing, as he is going to be the vice president as phased out. And number 16, the difference there is that authorizing the management to create bank accounts for the Tulare College Center and sign appropriate signature cards and documents necessary to get bank accounts for the Tulare College Center. So that's the only difference. That isn't an existing. The rest of it is just changing from myself to Brent, and that one has the authority to open accounts for Tulare.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the resolution 2012-29?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zumwalt.
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza.
Aye.
Trustee Nunez.
Aye.
Trustee Mann.
Aye.
Trustee Sherman.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2012-31?
So moved.
Second. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zumwalt.
Aye.
Trustee Mann.
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza.
Aye.
Trustee Nunez.
Aye.
Trustee Sherman.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the other 2 all in one motion? Other 3 in one motion?
So moved.
Okay. Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are going to adjourn to closed session. We don't anticipate any reportables out of that closed session. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Vacation.